Hey everybody, welcome to the 10th episode of the Potatocast. I'm your host, Joe Quinn Matthews, joined with my co-host,
Jason Ellis.
And today we have a two-part Halloween special. We're also joined with a very special guest, Noah Wambolt, to discuss a little bit of our Halloween movie bracket. Now, Jason, do you want to give the audience a little taste of what that's going to entail?
Yeah, sure. So basically we have 16 Halloween movies, which they aren't necessarily the best of the best, but ones that I would consider to be mainstays of the Halloween season. So these movies have been pitted up against each other to determine our champion of the Halloween movies. Well, these ones at least. And yeah.
Right, and aside from that, we also discuss a little bit of Halloween costumes from our past. So I think we have a very good episode here. So with all that said, I think we can just roll that intro.
Wake in the morning and I step outside and I take a deep breath and I get real high and I scream at the top of my lungs, what's going on? And I say, hey. I say, hey, what's going on?
That was weird. I couldn't hear it on my end because I don't think
couldn't
it's
hear
picked it
anybody.
up. I was really confused.
I heard Noah's. I didn't hear anybody else's.
I was really confused because it was just a very long pause as well. I was expecting okay, the crack isn't like human voice. It's not gonna pick it up, but then I was expecting the to get picked up by somebody, and then
let's hope it got picked up on.
I don't think I've ever had Fiji before, actually.
Whoa,
it's water.
It's very smooth.
Oh, hey,
Oh, wow, what are you doing, Jason?
hang
It's
on.
fantastic water. We would love to be sponsored by it.
There we go.
Straight
There
from
we
the
go.
island
Of Fiji.
of Fiji source Yakara Vidi Levu, Fiji Islands.
Mm-hmm.
Is Fiji
Go
multiple
America.
islands? I thought it was just one. I thought it was the
It's
island
islands.
of Fiji.
It says islands on the bottle, so I hope they got it right.
Yeah, that'd be embarrassing. Well, anyways, we are joined by our guest, our very special guest for our 10th Halloween. Well, okay, that sounds like it's our 10th Halloween episode. Our
It is
10th
not.
episode, which is a Halloween special. We are joined by Noah Wambolt. Noah, what's going on? How's your
Hi.
October been?
It's been pretty good. We've been watching these movies, so I've been having a steady flow of spooky horror stuff.
Of
I've
content?
been playing Resident Evil 0 for the first time.
Mm.
okay.
Is
I
that a
got that-
VR one, or is that a...
No, it came out in 2002. I picked it up when we were in Maryland at the thrift
Oh,
shop.
okay.
I didn't have a GameCube at the time, and I
Mhm.
recently got one, so now I get to finally play it.
Where'd you get the GameCube from? eBay?
No, it was a yard sale. It's a random dude.
Ooh.
Like around your area?
Yeah. It was right next to my work. Kind of just drove by work. I saw the guy. I somehow saw the GameCube while driving by. I don't know how I managed to do that.
That's crazy eyesight.
It's like-
You got a great prescription.
Yeah, like some Spider-Man, Spider Sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my GameCube is actually from Joaquin. I bought it off him for like $20, which is a great steal.
Yeah, it was not $20. It was it was $60. I'm pretty sure. What?
Did I pay you $60 for it?
Yeah, you did. I'm 99% sure it was $60, because that's how much I bought it for, when I got it. But then
I don't think I would pay you $60 for it though. Maybe I did. Maybe I did.
I'm 99% sure you gave me 60 for it.
Okay, I'll take your word on it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Actually, yeah, I was gonna say I don't know if I got $60 worth out of it, but I'd say I did because of Barnyard. Barnyard is worth paying $60 for a GameCube. That's the best GameCube game. No, I don't know if you've ever played it before.
I think we did at Hayden's house.
I
You
might
play
have
it-
brought her. I might have brought her.
We had the
over.
pig and stuff.
You play no. You create your own cow character.
Oh,
It's
maybe
like-
we played a different Barnyard game.
It's like the way that I describe it is it's like GTA but with barn animals.
Oh, it was a different Barnyard then.
It's a great
Yeah.
game. I love it. It's probably one of my favorite video games.
I played it not too long ago. I played it with Marcus because I thought there would be multiplayer, but there's just not. There's no multiplayer. But
Yeah,
there's a
no.
ton of
The only
minigames.
multiplayer thing you can do with it is when you just pass the controller back and forth.
Yeah, that's awful. There are so many
we
games
played
that
it together.
I know,
and it was
but
alright.
we only did Tease the Mailman. You know,
That is true. The best game in there.
Mm-hmm. It is a pretty decent game. I'll give you that.
Yeah.
You're talking about Back at the Barnyard, right? Like the Nickelodeon thing?
Yeah, well, technically it's Barnyard. It's the movie.
Oh,
they
right,
did not
right.
go back to it. Yeah, this is our first
It's
experience
the
with
first
the
time they went.
Barnyard.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, but
First
this is Back at the Barnyard. Excuse me.
Okay.
Starring what's his name? Kevin
James.
Though he did not voice in the Back at the Barnyard, which is sad. I think
it was
Will
Chris
Arnett
Hardwick.
did.
It was Will Arnett.
I don't know where I got Will Arnett from.
Wait, who was it?
Wait, hold on. We got to see this now.
It was
I think Chris
I
Hardwick was in the show somehow.
I feel like it was Will Arnett because he wasn't like that big of an actor back then, but he does like a lot of voice work. So
Hold on. Okay, yeah. Let me just look up Back at the Barnyard cast. It was Chris Hardwick.
no way.
At least that's what it says for 2007 animation 2
Yeah,
seasons
yep.
Back at the Barnyard. Chris Hardwick played Otis. He isn't even the top billed
Yeah,
character
Jeffrey
though.
Garcia is somehow.
And then Jeffrey Garcia for Pip is second billed on my thing on my
He's Sheen apparently
Google thing.
from Jimmy Neutron.
Yeah, it's very cool. So besides the Halloween movies, have you been doing anything to celebrate Halloween around this month? Either of you? Because obviously it's a very different Halloween, or I guess October, than before with the pandemic going on.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not necessarily people aren't necessarily going out as much and doing activities. Although I have seen a lot of people posting like going to like pumpkin patches and apple orchards just masked up, you know. So any of that for either of you?
Nope. The only really Halloween thing I've done outside of watching movies is sometimes set the light in my room to orange. Other than that, I'm kind of just not Halloween.
Well, you're not that big on Halloween joking, right?
I'm not a fan of Halloween.
Yeah, I was surprised
biggest
when I brought up the idea to you, and you said that you really don't have any experience with Halloween movies at all.
Right, I don't.
What was the?
I guess
what
I
was
do
the one
now.
Halloween movie you said you had experience with?
I think I said Coraline, which isn't like really a
No, that's not what you said.
more. Did I not say that? Oh,
No,
Scary Godmother.
yeah,
Did I say?
Scary
What
Godmother.
is that?
I don't know what.
is that Scary
I
Godmother?
might have. Is that the weird animation thing?
Yeah, that's like
yeah,
a 3D
yeah.
animation on like a Cartoon Network original
Yeah.
or something.
Mm-hmm.
It had the vampires, right?
There were
Yeah,
probably some vampires in there.
and
Yeah,
the
it's like an
kid who's got like
ensemble.
the like evil cousin that like, his face got stuck with like his evil smile. He's just
Yeah.
the devil. That was good.
Yeah,
As a
I
kid,
remember
I loved those things though.
Yeah,
I
there
love
was,
it.
especially
There's
since
two.
the TV movies. They're kind of surprises that came out of nowhere. We do have, I think Halloweentown was a TV movie.
Yeah, it was a Disney.
yeah,
it
it
was
was.
a Disney Channel original.
That was a classic. I think, I mean, I'm not watching the Disney Channel at all anymore, but do they even make movies like that anymore?
Yeah, they still make like Disney Channel originals. You'll see.
I think they do. I saw
You'll see 'em.
on the Disney Plus app there was like I think there was a movie called Zombies that looks like it was around like 2016ish.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I haven't seen it though, so I can't speak to how good or bad it is.
Mm-hmm.
But I think they still do stuff. And I mean both did it. Both Disney Channel and Nickelodeon. Like I remember Nickelodeon had I think it was I think one of them was My Babysitter's a Vampire. That could have been Disney though.
That was Disney.
That was
that was-
Disney. I know
yeah, that was
Nickelodeon was they had like a werewolf one with Victoria Justice.
Mm-hmm.
That I remember vaguely
don't
from a
know.
while ago.
I don't know if
Nickel-
I've seen that one.
Nickelodeon, I think, just brought back Are You Afraid of the Dark? And I think they turned that into a movie. Disney, they do like the Disenchantment movies now, which I think might be Halloween related. I'm not too sure because like I just see them like in the channel guide. I don't
Right.
watch them, so
Yeah, I can't really speak on the current day of kids channel original movies.
mm-hmm.
Do you remember the scary stories to tell in the dark books from like elementary and middle school?
Goosebumps.
No.
No, the
It was
knockoff.
called Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark.
Mm.
It's
I,
like really weird.
I never read them, but I know what they are.
Yeah, everybody knows the images and the cover and stuff. That's like what it was known for. They made a
I don't-
movie, sort of like an anthology movie, but it was connected. I think a year or two ago. It was surprisingly good for being a kid's book translation. It's got just it's like a weird bunch of stories.
mm-hmm.
They're not
Right.
too scary as adults. Like you could read it, you would be like, why were they scared of that? But the pictures are honestly horrifying.
Well, I think Goosebumps was very similar. Where like the TV show that they made for it, like there were some like obviously there were some duds in there, But there's some creepy episodes I remember as a kid. I don't know if you guys have seen the JonTron video on Goosebumps.
I have.
I love that video so much. It used to make me laugh so hard. There was the werewolf one that he covered where this kid, I forget how he turns into a werewolf. I don't think he gets bit by one or something. But this kid in like high school who like hates his life and hates dogs or something turns into a werewolf, and he gets all hairy. And
I think he turns just a dog.
Oh, you're right. He just turns into a dog. He
not
doesn't turn
into a
werewolf.
And I think the reason why is because like a dog scratched him or something. Something like that. Although I think all the neighborhood kids like started disappearing and turning into dogs.
You're right.
It was like a conspiracy by the parents or something.
Yeah, that's the thing. They all had twist endings at the end. Obviously at the end. But sometimes they just come out of left field and there's the stupidest things. I don't remember the episode, but there's one episode where at the end, the main character reveals like a secret they've been hiding to their parents. And they're like, oh, it's okay, honey. I vividly remember this. The parents turn around and like lift up their hair so that you can see their like roots or something, and then just eyes come out of the back of their heads. They're like, we're aliens from a different planet. It's like, Errol Stein, what do you smoke? How could you be thinking about this stuff?
There's obviously The Mask, which is the most famous Goosebumps story, I feel like.
That one, there was Say Cheese and Die. I like that book. Have you seen that one?
I don't think so.
There's a show too. So they find a camera somehow, and they start taking pictures of it. It's actually pretty scary. It's a Polaroid camera, so the picture comes out, and it's not a picture of what you took, but it's like a picture of the future. So you can see people dying in the... I forget exactly how, but you'll see stuff and scary stuff happen in the pictures.
Interesting. I can't really say much about like Goosebumps and stuff because I don't really like horror stuff, and I get that it's not scary now when you look back at it, but as a kid, like at the drop of a hat would freak me out. I would jump. So I just was never really into that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I was pretty similar, and I didn't watch a whole lot of Goosebumps because again it wasn't very prominent per se. Like growing up, it was just kind of a thing that you like knew about, and you like knew like the theme song and the intro, and you knew a couple episodes.
Can you guys remember something like a show or a movie you saw as a kid that horrified you?
Absolutely, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
What?
So Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, and I rewatched it recently because it was on Netflix. I didn't remember the plot as a kid because I was like so young where, putting on movies was just kind of like, I don't know, just visual noise, I guess. You remembered a couple of things, but you didn't really understand the entire thing. I was very young. I was probably like 4 or 5. And we had it on VHS, and there's this character in it called the Child Catcher. And he's terrifying. And he like disguises himself because there's like, they travel like a utopian, I guess, world where like children aren't allowed or something, and so he like disguises himself and like bribes them with like candy and stuff and like traps them in cages and brings them off to like the emperor or whatever, the king. And he was just like, the design of him is so creepy, and I used to like have like nightmares that the child catcher was dressed up as my dad and there to catch me, and I was deeply terrified of it. And eventually it kind of went to the recesses of like the back of my brain, and I forgot about it until like, I don't know, maybe like freshman year of high school, and I was just like, wait a second, I looked at Chitty Chitty Bang Bang Child Catcher scene and I rewatched it, and it's still scary. It's not as terrifying as I thought it was, but it's still very scary.
I have something like that, and it's probably it's definitely weirder than yours. It's not really a show or a movie, but the thing that scared me, like the most like media thing that scared me as a kid, was the Seen It DVD menu. Now I don't know if you guys remember what Seen It. Yeah,
I don't know one of those.
Yeah, Jason, do you know what Seen It is?
Yes. Which Seen It are you talking about though?
I don't remember exactly which one. Probably one of the early ones because it's probably, I think it was around 2005, 2006. The Seen It DVD menu had like the most ominous, scary music, and I remember my family was like just done playing like a round of it, and they went downstairs. They told me like wait up here because we were playing upstairs. They told me to wait up here because they'll be back in a second, and I did. And they were taking their sweet time, and all I'm hearing in the background is this really scary, ominous music that keeps looping, and like these weird mid-2000s like swoosh visuals with like clips going on the screen, and I don't know why, but it just scared the ever-living shit out of me.
Okay, that is weirder than mine.
Yeah,
That is-
it's
yeah,
very specific too.
Yeah, well.
For me, I remember we watched It, the 90s one with Tim Curry.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how old it was, maybe 6 or 7, but it scared the shit out of me. I don't know. I mean, I watched it again recently. It's not scary at all. Like,
Oh, it's so bad.
it's
so
bad.
bad.
The acting is so bad. But like as a kid, you don't know. All you need is Tim Curry with clown makeup and sharp teeth, and that's enough to get you scared.
Mm-hmm.
A weirder one though, because like that's a horror movie. It's kind of expected to be scared. Have you ever played? I think it's Star Wars Starfighter or something. I think it's on PS2 and Xbox.
I think I know which one you're talking about, yeah.
There's this alien that you can play as. There's 3 main characters you can play as. One of them's this huge green tentacle alien.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why, but it gave me nightmares. I was probably like 5 or 6 playing the game.
Mm-hmm.
It's just this weird hulking alien. It wasn't like scary. He was a good guy. You play as him. But
If we're talking about video games, like the like weirdest game to scare me was the Cat in the Hat video game.
I
Just
have
because-
that.
that's not
Just
that
do?
weird. I'd say that's pretty scary.
That model of the cat is just absolutely terrifying because they like just put a texture of Mike Myers' face on it. It's so gross.
Are you talking
And
about
the
the PS2
fish
one?
model. Yeah, the PS2, Xbox one. I'm pretty sure it's the same on both platforms.
Right.
I had it on Xbox though.
Well, I wasn't sure if there was like a different one, like an older one or a newer one.
No. It was like the one based on the movie.
Gotcha.
It was awful.
Yeah. I used to have recurring nightmares that I was getting chased by like Mark Hamill's Joker. And I would always like find myself at like my cousin's house. Not in real life, in the dream. I would find myself at my cousin's house and like begging for them to hide me. And then they'd hide me around a corner and I would hear like him at the door talking to them. And then obviously I'd wake up. I have another one, but it actually involves a movie that's in the brackets. I'm going to wait to possibly...
You just
Oh,
unlocked the memory
okay.
of a dream I had. There's an episode of Jimmy Neutron where Jimmy makes a clone of himself.
Are you talking
where
about the
he's-
5 clones? Like the...
No, it's like an evil clone, I think. And he has... Oh, maybe it is that episode. One of them has a mustache and a goatee or something.
Yeah.
He's the
Are you
evil one. I don't know why, but I had a dream that Jimmy Neutron came after me and he was like trying to break into my house.
It'd be like that. Impressionable minds.
Evil.
Yeah.
Jimmy
I actually
Neutron.
don't know if the one with the mustache was evil. I think the evil one just had like slicked back hair.
Are you
Hold
talking?
on. No, I think it
I-
was a different thing then.
That,
'Cause I think there was a movie, maybe.
I think there was like a Jimmy Neutron game called Jimmy Neutron vs. Jimmy Negatron.
Hold on.
And 'cause
Jimmy-
I think the box art for it has like an evil Jimmy with a mustache and goatee.
Yeah. That's exactly right.
Is that him? I'm not looking at the picture
Yeah.
right now. Is that him?
I know way too much about Jimmy Neutron apparently.
It is.
He's in like a chef suit, like a chef's
Yeah.
outfit.
It does. It's not even a scientist-looking guy. He looks like a chef.
Oh my goodness! Like,
Jimmy Negatron.
I'm looking at a like a screenshot from inside the game,
Mm-hmm.
and he just looks like I don't know.
Is
It's
it the one that-
it's like
is
a
it the-
baby but with a goatee?
Is it the one that has like Bandicam at the top?
Yeah, it's the one where he's in front of the house with the Christmas
Yeah.
lights.
I mean, I never played the game. Maybe I just saw the box art.
Maybe.
I thought he was in an episode.
I don't know, because I think Evil Jimmy looks exactly the same as. Why are there 2 evil variations of Jimmy Neutron? Is the real
They
question.
went in ideas.
Yeah,
We
the
gotta
evil Jimmy from the
recycle.
TV show has just like slicked back, kind of like pointy hair, right?
Okay.
Looks like he kind of looks like a werewolf, honestly.
Remember there was Sheen too when he turned evil with the huge brain?
Oh,
Yeah,
that's a
yeah.
great episode. So, I suppose we should possibly get into the bracket now. I'll explain, or do you have
well-
something else, Jokin?
Well, before we do that, it's time for the Peabody Potato Fact of the Day.
Oh, of
yes.
course. Take it away, Miss Peabody.
In October 1995, the potato became the first vegetable to be grown in space. NASA and the University of Wisconsin-Madison created the technology with the goal of feeding astronauts on long space voyages and eventually feeding future space colonies.
Thank you, Miss Peabody.
Thank you, Miss
Yeah.
Peabody. Oddly inspirational this time around.
Yeah,
but-
it was really good. I really appreciate it, Miss Peabody. She's
that's gonna
always,
give me-
on top of things.
It's gonna give me the passion and motivation I need to get through this work week.
Yeah.
Amen
well,
to that, brother.
actually, during the break, while Miss Peabody was, going over that beautiful fact, I had a thing pop in my head, and I was curious, before we get into the bracket, just still on the topic of Halloween, I was curious if anybody has any embarrassing Halloween costumes. I remember I
my
recently
God.
posted about this on Twitter, where I remember, like, just randomly I had a memory of going to a Halloween party. I think it was my senior year. It was either senior or junior year. You were there, no, I'm pretty sure. And I went as Ed from Ed, Ed, and Eddie. And,
Yeah.
and everybody thought I was a school shooter. And I found a picture of myself from there, and I do not blame them.
Get on the ground.
The thing is, I put a poll up for my Halloween costume that year. It was like between 8 different things, and Ed won the poll. So like people should have known what it was. Yeah, like people voted for it, yet nobody at the party knew what it was.
Everyone was Nick kids there, so can't really blame them.
True.
Yeah.
But when I brought that up, it sounded like you did have an embarrassing Halloween costume, Noah, unless I'm
Yeah,
mistaken.
you just triggered me again. So this was before Marvel was like big again with the movies. I went as the Hulk, probably in like 2005 or
Oh
so.
no.
And I had the little muscle man suit. It's all green.
Oh, okay. I thought you were gonna say you were like spray painted or something.
Oh no. Like Lou Ferrigno.
Yeah.
I had the muscle man thing, and I had a Hulk mask. And I was with my mom, I think, with going out trick or treating. It was all good. We decided to go to some different houses at the end of the night because I was a little older. We could stay out a little later.
Mm-hmm.
So we go to these extra houses, and I knock on the door. This old man opens up, and the first thing he says is, "Aren't you ugly?" I was like, I ripped off my mask, I threw it on the ground, and I ran away and cried.
Did your mom run after you?
Oh, I mean, yeah, I didn't run away from her.
Oh, okay.
I probably ran towards her or something.
Mm-hmm.
But I was not happy.
Was
Oh,
that
my
the last
Hulk
house
ugly.
of the night?
Yeah, I think I called it after that.
It's tragic.
Yeah.
That's very tragic. Joking, do you have anything?
Yeah, the most embarrassing costume I wore was I wore one of my sister's dresses, and I had long hair at the time. I straightened my hair, and I wore a bra and heels. I was a girl for Halloween.
That's a
Norman
banger
Bates.
costume.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like just kind of uncomfortable with it now. Now, like back then it was okay, but even like just looking back at it now, it kind of. I feel like it's
You
not really
cringe?
acceptable. Yeah, it's cringe.
Well, I don't see why
cringe.
I don't think it's unacceptable.
But
I'd
maybe
say
that's
cringe, yeah, sure.
maybe
but
that's
I don't
just
think
me. But I also was like getting like actual catcalled that night.
Oh. How old were you?
No, that's weird.
This was, I think it was definitely my last time going trick or treating. So I think I was in like 7th grade.
Really? You
Pretty
stopped
sure.
then?
Yeah, I stopped then.
I think my
When's
last
the
one was my junior year.
Really?
Yeah, because I always wanted to end on a high note, and I think freshman and sophomore year, I would like constantly ask like Jared and Courtney if they wanted to go trick or treating and have like a last hurrah.
Yep.
And like I think either one or both of those years, it just kind of didn't work out where they weren't up for it. And then eventually, me and JoJo, I think my junior year, we did our last hurrah, and tried to go out with a bang. It
Did you
was
get good
nice.
candy
I
that year?
went as Ken Bone.
Oh, nice.
I
That's
remember
a
that one.
throwback.
We need him more than ever now. I also remember one year in middle school. I want to say eighth or 7th grade. I think it was 8th grade though. Me, Cameron DeMarco, and Danny Holmes decided, and it was honestly a great idea, and I think the execution was pretty good too. We decided we were gonna go as a family, where Danny was gonna be the dad, Cam was gonna be the mom, and I was gonna be the baby. And so I bought a baby mask and a onesie. And then Cam did a similar thing to you, Joe. And this is why I'm bringing it up, where he didn't have long hair at the time, so he had a wig. And yeah, so he went all out with like, he had like, I don't think it was like a long dress, I think, but he had a dress on, like a dress, tights, and I think he stuffed like his shirt.
Oh, okay.
But it was great. It was a great Halloween. People loved it, you know.
Fun
I feel like
time,
it's
fun
not
time.
that. I'll be honest. I've worn women's clothing as a costume too. Not for Halloween though. So I don't know if that makes it worse. But
Oh,
it
just
was
on like a Sunday?
no. It was you have ever been to the Relay for Life?
Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about. I've seen
Yeah.
pictures of Jared and Parker dressed up as girls for that.
Yeah, they have like a contest. I don't know why. It's a cancer society thing. So I don't know why they have the event. The dudes are supposed to dress up as women. And they have a little contest.
Mm-hmm.
I think I was in 8th grade, so they kind of just forced me into clothes because I was in. It was like the middle school honor society had a group.
Mm-hmm.
I think I was probably the only guy left at the time. Yeah, that was my journey.
Do they
into
have a
that
reverse
area.
contest for girls
think
dressing up as
so.
guys, or is it just?
I don't think so. It would make sense. Well, maybe they did. I don't know.
Well, I think with
You think,
that not I don't want to say out of the way because it was very insightful, but with
Right.
that gone through, I think now we can officially move on to the Halloween bracket. So I'll explain kind of the rules. Well, not really rules, but like the procedure, I suppose. So we have 16 movies that I selected, and 16 was like a good number to where it gave us like enough time to where we could watch them, but it gave us variety as well. 32 would be much better for variety, but at the same time, it'd be really hard to watch all of them in time for to do a podcast before Halloween's over. But we have 16, and when I look at the honorable mentions, I see ones, and I'm like, oh, I wish that should be on there. But then I look at what I would replace it with, and I go, ooh, I don't know what I would take off though. So this is not necessarily the 16 definitive best Halloween movies out there. These are just like a little bit of everything I wanted to try, you know.
Yeah. Some
Get
of them
some-
are honestly kind of crappy.
Yes. But you know, get some monsters in here, get some classic kids movies in there, get a little bit of horror in there, a little bit of psychological thriller in there. Try to sprinkle a little bit of everything. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go through the bracket, and we'll discuss the movies. You know, talk about what we thought about them, of course, beforehand. We don't just want to go through and just randomly list off names of movies. You know, that wouldn't be a whole lot of fun. I will give a bit of a spoiler warning for people. Our intention isn't to spoil anything in these movies, but as we talk about them, there's a chance that something might come up in one or so movies that may be considered a spoiler. So there's a list of what movies we're talking about in the description, so you can go look at that. If there's anything that like you haven't seen that you really want to see, granted, most of these like have come out years and years ago, so
Right.
But if there is anything that you see that you're like, oh, I wanted to watch that, you can watch it first and then come back perhaps. So for round one, we have Dracula versus Bride of Frankenstein. And these are both the original Universal monster movie interpretations. 1930s, I think. Hold on, I think I have in my notes the actual date for each of them. So Dracula was 1938, and Bride of Frankenstein was 1935. Wait, is that right?
I think
I feel
Dracula
like-
was 1931.
I think you're right. I think Dracula came out beforehand. I don't know why it says 38. So, Joaquin, if you had to describe what the story of Dracula is, how would you describe it?
Dracula moves. I think he moved to America. I'm not too sure. I'm like 99% sure he moved to America.
I think it was England.
It was England? Oh, okay. There were not English accents in that movie. But he just like starts terrorizing people of England. He possesses the dude to do his bidding. That guy gets put in a mental hospital. There wasn't really a lot going on with like the whole Dracula thing. I feel like it didn't really take advantage of the fact that it was Dracula, but
Yeah, I agree. One of my notes that I kind of put down, or like jotted down while watching it, was the fact that there was a lack of a clear story, I felt like.
So I've read like the first half of the book, and it kind of follows the story of the book.
Okay.
It's like the same plot where Dracula's moving. The book's kind of weird because it's not a straight up narrative. It's told in different. Like each chapter is a letter from a different character or something like that,
Okay.
or like a diary entry or something. And I didn't finish the book, but from what I remember of the book, it follows the same characters as Mina and the real estate agent dude. And yeah, Dracula's not like the main movie monster where he's like Jason, where he's running around the whole time. He's kind of just a character.
Yeah, I said that there was a lack of a clear story. If I had to describe it, it would just be he buys a house in England, and he moves to England, and just I don't know why he picks that family. I mean, he moves in next to them, but he moves in next to like a rich family, and he just like terrorizes like the daughter or whatever. I think he wants her to become his wife because he has like multiple wives. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, he has 3 wives.
Yeah. But it's never really clearly stated. It also has a very abrupt ending, I found.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah,
It just like really quickly it was just like he's dead.
Yeah,
I
they
was
kill
very
him off
surprised.
screen. Stab him in the heart off screen. And he's like, he's dead. I'm gonna stay back though. Like, and then the movie just ends.
Yeah, I thought that was the most disappointing part. This is the first time I saw it. But Nosferatu it was a silent film made like 10 or 15 years before. That has Dracula dying like by the sunlight, I think. I think he gets caught in the sunlight and you see him sort of vaporize from that. So I was kind of assuming this was going to end in a similar way.
Right.
Nope. It was just off screen. It's kind of a shame.
I also will bring up that originally I wanted to do the Christopher Lee Dracula because I think that's why they considered a more like kind of famous movie, I feel like. However, it was not available on Peacock for free. So we went with the original, but it was fine. And yeah, like I will say I was very surprised at the set design. And this is both for this and for Bride of Frankenstein, but I guess we'll touch on Bride of Frankenstein when we get to it. But the set design, I thought it was beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I agree too. I think being in black and white definitely helps with set design because you don't really have to. There's like one aspect of it you can just completely ignore, which is color. But I think it really helps out a lot, and I think the lighting in both movies was also pretty great. Definitely like the camera angle. Like really, when you get to like these really old movies, especially like horror movies, you see like what they did back then to like, you know, go around all the limitations they had to face, and I think that's really interesting to step back and see, you know, how it was done back then.
Yeah. One thing I noticed a lot about these older movies is the editing between shots. It's so abrupt.
Yeah.
And I think movies nowadays try to have a bit more continuity in between shots.
Mm-hmm.
Like you'll see cuts kind of mid-sentence. One of the movies we'll talk about later is very much like that too.
Right.
You can tell it's got that. It's a new media. We're not really sure what we're doing yet, but we're trying our best.
Mm-hmm.
And I really appreciate that for these movies.
Yeah, some shots where they would like go back and forth with camera angles to like show one character talking and then another, they didn't exactly line up. Like you could like see that one character wasn't talking, but you could hear them, or like their body language is just completely different between the two scenes. But you can kind of excuse that stuff because of the age. So
yeah, I was doing some research on like these older movies. And I just thought it was interesting too because people like really like, I want to say critically acclaimed, but that's not a noun, or that's not a verb. But they really praised Orson Welles for in Citizen Kane for like the certain angles he was able to do, and like low angles and stuff like that, and have these, you know, wide shots of like sets and stuff. But these movies came out beforehand, and like they were like kind of like pioneered being able to get like really wide shots of like the set, like the scenery and the sets and stuff, like with people in it as well. It wasn't just like a painting that like they just showed really quick in the background. Like there was people moving around in these sets, and like they had really interesting angles. And I thought like in that sense, I think these were like really like just beautiful. I really like just the visuals of a lot of the movies. For me, for Dracula, I think Renfield, who's the real estate agent, I think he stole the show for me. Whenever he was on screen, that was like my favorite parts of the movie. And like the shot of like where they're on the ship going to England, and like the police commandeer the boat, and they open up the bottom hatch, and you just see that shot of him like peering into the camera with that giant like sick smile on his face. I was like, oh my gosh, that's terrifying.
He actually looks like he's insane. Like, it's not even an actor. I don't know how he did such a good job. But one more shot that I really liked was when Dracula was hypnotizing people. They get that real close-up shot of his eyes.
Yeah.
And it felt like you were getting hypnotized by Bela Lugosi. And I just want to say that I know we've been kind of hard on this movie, but Bela Lugosi's iconic Dracula. That's like the Dracula
Yeah.
you think of when you say Dracula, right? There's a
Very,
reason.
very classic Dracula.
Mhm.
First thing to come to mind.
Yeah. While doing research on these older movies, I was very surprised at how the reuse of like actors that they would use in the movies. I guess they just had like a certain circuit of actors that they would constantly reuse for like these like sequels and other movies. The character that played Renfield, he was in like almost all of these old Universal monster movies. I'm pretty sure he played
Was
Igor
he
in the original, the first Frankenstein. He was in Bride of Frankenstein as well. He was that character that like, oh, it's in my notes. What does it say? He said that he wanted 1,000 crowns as payment for like finding the dead body for like the woman.
There's somebody else too. Is his name Frederick Freiherr? Is that the actor?
Oh, I have no idea.
No, never mind. Okay.
Bela Lugosi also, I forget which one. I think it was like 3 or 4 sequels down the line played Frankenstein. Well, actually, he played, he played Igor in
really?
one of the movies. And then I guess what happened was they transferred his brain, like Igor's brain, into Frankenstein in one of the movies. And then in the next movie, which was a direct sequel to it, they had him play Frankenstein because his brain was in Frankenstein's monster. And I just thought it was interesting seeing like all the reuse of actors, because I imagine it was probably a very like niche. I don't think it's really extremely popular when they were making them originally.
Yeah, they were all like Universal films. So
yeah, I think they were probably
had like
quite
easy
niche
ties
as well. You know, horror movies.
I think they made it really big actually. Maybe at first they were niche, but
Right.
this was like the first Marvel Cinematic Universe.
That is true.
Yeah.
And they did make a whole lot of them. Like, so obviously they were making money off of them.
Movies. Yeah.
It probably was very, very cheap to make them too. You know, that's probably why they made a lot of them.
Yeah, they
probably,
could reuse sets and costumes and stuff.
Yeah.
One thing I know too, I've never seen it, but there's a Spanish version of this movie that's
Really?
allegedly written up a lot better. I don't know the differences, but some people think it's a better version of Dracula. It's got Bela Lugosi and stuff.
Really?
I want to look into that more, but I thought it'd be interesting to bring up. It's like a different cut or something. I don't know.
Well, we have it pitted up against the other original Universal Monster movie, or one of the original Universal Monster movies, with The Bride of Frankenstein. Originally, it was going to just be Frankenstein, but for some reason, on Peacock, you have to get their premium streaming service. Like, you have to pay for it in order to get Frankenstein. But Bride of Frankenstein was on there. I looked it up, and Bride of Frankenstein is, I think, higher like rated as a movie than Frankenstein. Realistically, though, they're really just 2 parts of the same film. I feel like, because I remember reading the original book in high school, and basically this movie is just the second half of the book.
Yeah, it literally starts off with the woman who wrote the first book, like saying, "Oh well, I have an idea for a sequel in mind," and they just go in from there. Yeah.
Yeah, it takes place like directly after, like it picks up right where the first Frankenstein movie ends, and I'm pretty sure they came out like a year between each other. So I honestly I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't just continue to film, and just you know.
They did like a Harry
movie.
Potter, Deathly Hallows Part 2 sort of thing.
Yeah, but yeah, so basically the movie kicks off where Frankenstein is underneath all the rubble, or at least people think that he's underneath all the rubble of like the windmill. I think it was a windmill that he was in.
Yeah, it was.
That the townspeople burned down. However, yeah, there was like water underneath it, and he survived. And so he escapes, and he goes off into the woods. And I think there are some differences, because correct me if I'm wrong, but in the original book, doesn't he like learn English from like hiding in like a shed behind behind like a girl who's like tutoring somebody? Mm-hmm. And this one, he stumbles upon a blind man, and he just kind of learns English from him. And then eventually he goes back to... Oh, well, I should also say there's another scientist in this. I forget what his name is. But he saw, I guess, Dr. Frankenstein's work, and he wants to help him create a second one. They want to put together their genius. And so, yeah, so then eventually the guy, like the scientist, meets up. He finds Frankenstein's monster, and together they like force Dr. Frankenstein to create a mate for Frankenstein so he's not lonely. And so he makes the Bride of Frankenstein, and she hates him, and they die. No, it's another sort of abrupt ending, but not as abrupt as Dracula. Mm-hmm. It's just sort of like she comes to life, and she just screams at the sight of Frankenstein, and then he kills himself.
Yeah, that's a terrible fate, man. It's supposed to be a girl. Freaking thinks you're hideous.
Mm-hmm. For me, I love the action in this one, especially like when he first comes out of like the rubble, and like he just was like tossing these people around, and like he throws the guy down into the thing. I was like caught off guard at first. I was like, wow, this is like kind of brutal in like some sense. But some of the things that I had written down were I really liked in the when he's with the blind man. You can tell that it's a movie of its time, where he's teaching him the good things in life, and he teaches him about smoking. And so he lights the cigar, and Frankenstein's monster doesn't like fire. He's like, no, and the guy's like, no, try it. And he goes, smoke good. And
I do think that was like the best part of the movie, though, Frankenstein's monster and the blind man. And it was really sad, like when the two townspeople came into the shack, because just like Frankenstein actually had a friend.
Mm-hmm. I mean, he's like a child. He's like a puppy.
He is a child.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to hurt
anybody. He's not
anybody.
really a murderous monster. I mean, well, he does kill people, but he's not like he's not.
Outside of that, though. Outside of that,
it's like he's what's his face from Of Mice and Men?
Lenny.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see the comparison.
I think an advantage Bride of Frankenstein has is that it's not the origin story.
True.
It can kind of get into more of the crazy stuff, and I do like the like Dracula's origin story where he's like moving and stuff, but it's a lot slower for sure.
And I mean, even though it's called Bride of Frankenstein, it is very much just a Frankenstein movie.
Yeah, she's in there for like 5 minutes.
Yeah, it's really just Frankenstein too. Oh, I also was curious how the Bride of Frankenstein hair fits in fits in those wraps that she was in. Like she was wrapped up like a mummy, real tight, and they unwrapped her, and she all of a sudden had like a beautiful fro. Would it be considered a fro? It's more like Marge Simpson.
I think
perm.
that's a fro.
Is it a perm or a fro?
I have no clue.
Funny story about the fro, because I did a little bit of research on like the classic monsters. So while like Frankenstein and the Bride of Frankenstein and Dracula, they're all in like public domain, Universal does own some characteristics of those characters.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't make a version of Frankenstein with bolts in the neck because Universal owns the copyright to that. And for Bride of Frankenstein, you can't have more than one white streak in the hair or any lightning bolts in the hair.
Wow.
That's pretty interesting.
Yeah. And I wonder how like they got the rights to that. How do you like go through that much like copyright law to put bolts in the neck?
I think that's the thing with copyright is that they're so specific. We have made so much stuff that you have to be so specific. I think this TV station has a copyright on our logo because it's like the waves or something, how they go through the letters. It's very, very unique. That's a whole different podcast study.
Yeah. I just thought that was really interesting though.
I am curious because I don't know if you guys saw, but when they were trying to remake the Universal monster universe, they obviously they started with the Mummy with Tom Cruise, and they had like hints to plan an actual universe. And they had like this big picture too with like a bunch of cast members that were going to be cast as these monsters. And the next movie in it was going to be a Bride of Frankenstein movie with Angelina Jolie. And I'm very curious how that would have played out, because with this one at least, it's a Frankenstein movie, you know? And again, like Jokin said, Bride of Frankenstein is barely in this thing. So I'm curious what story they would tell with Angelina Jolie's Bride of Frankenstein, especially starting that without even a Frankenstein movie at all.
Are you sure that was the next one though? Because like
I'm pretty sure.
The Invisible Man came out. I think that's supposed to be part of the same universe.
I think they're kind of rebooting it with The Invisible Man.
Really?
I could be wrong.
Because that Mummy one came out like 3 years ago, didn't it?
Like 3 or 4.
Interesting.
Really? I thought it was like 6 years ago. Hang on.
I think it was like 2016.
2017.
2017.
2017.
So 3 years ago.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm pretty sure they were supposed to do that. I think literally they kind of canceled the monster universe like after it came out, because I think they took the pictures and stuff before they were done. And like I haven't watched the Mummy movie, but I know there's like a scene where like they have a bunch of jars of like different stuff, where like there's like Dracula's fangs in like a jar or something like that, or like a skull of a vampire. I think they had Dr. Jekyll as like the Nick Fury of those movies.
Oh,
Like putting together the team.
we're just in the world right now where everybody wants to make their own cinematic universe for
Well, they want
it
that money.
does. Huh?
They want that money.
I know it, and you can have like lazier story writing because of it, because you can just like link everything together instead of creating its own original like idea.
Right. So does anybody else have any comments on either of these two movies, or should we go on with the vote? And also for the voting, it's not necessarily what you think is the like quote unquote better movie. It's really just like what you enjoyed more.
Okay.
Like even if like you think that one's like, oh well, this is technically the better movie, you can go with whatever one you enjoyed more. You really can vote on however you feel voting. Actually, if you want to vote for whichever one you feel is the better movie, you can do that too. It's really however you feel like voting.
Okay.
So we'll start with Joe Quinn. If between Dracula and Bride of Frankenstein, which one do you want to move on to round 2?
So I know we kind of said I feel like we had more criticism towards Bride of Frankenstein, but I think that's because it's like a far more fleshed out movie. It feels more of a movie than Dracula. So I think that Bride of Frankenstein is so much better. And I don't even think it's like that good, but better than just Dracula, which nothing really is happening. There's not, like we said, there's not really a story going on. So Bride of
Your vote is for
Frankenstein
Bride of
gets my vote.
Frankenstein?
Yep.
All right. Noah, are you going to tie it up, or are you sending it through to Hollywood?
I think Dracula is really good at building atmosphere. That's that movie's strength. But I think I like Nosferatu as a better Dracula movie, just because I know it's a silent movie, but it really sucks you in. And I can't think of his... Oh, Max Schreck. He's the actor who plays the vampire. He's the most frightening thing I think that's ever been put on film. Like, just looking at the dude is horrifying. He's a really good Dracula. And plus, having that, like, as a frame of reference, I think I gotta put Bride of Frankenstein over just because I can't see myself liking Dracula more than that. Like, I guess the existence of the other movie kind of hampers my enjoyment of this one.
That's fair. Well, with 2 votes, Bride of Frankenstein goes through. I would also go with Bride of Frankenstein, though. I think Bride of Frankenstein was, just a more enjoyable movie. Like, it actually felt like it was a movie, not like an experiment, which I feel like Dracula kind of felt like that at points where I was like, what? I wasn't sure what was going on at certain points of Dracula. With Bride of Frankenstein, it was very, like, I understood the story. And it might be because I know, like, the book, too. I don't know if perhaps I wouldn't understand it if I didn't know the book at all. And, like, didn't know, like, the story. Because obviously, this is the sequel, and we haven't seen the first one. You can kind of make an inference, I suppose, of what the first one's about by how this one starts. But, yeah, I would definitely go with Bride of Frankenstein over Dracula. I wish I had a gavel. Can you hear
With the
that?
sound effect.
We can hear that.
Okay. Bride of Frankenstein goes through. Okay, so we have round 2, which I like to call the Battle of the Of-Those. We have Silence of the Lambs versus Children of the Corn. Noah, do you want to go over what the story of Silence of the Lambs is?
Sure. So I watched this yesterday for the first time ever. So
Really?
It should be fresh in my mind, yeah. I just never got around to it somehow.
Honestly, same.
So this movie is about a woman. She's a student, like, training for the FBI. She's a psychology student. She gets tasked with talking to Dr. Hannibal Lecter. He's an insane man. I think he's in jail. I don't think he's a patient. He's a cannibal who is very dangerous and very psychotic, but he's a top world premiere psychologist. They need his help to find this new killer that's on the loose called Buffalo Bill. We get, like, a back and forth. It's kind of like a Law and Order episode, I guess, where you get gathering clues, trying to figure out who this guy is. Get some good clues, some misdirection, including misdirection by Hannibal Lecter. You end up finding Buffalo Bill, and I really like the climax in this movie too.
Yeah.
It was actually pretty intense. I thought it would have kind of copped out, but it holds on. I wasn't sure where it was going to go until the very end, and it kind of leaves on a cliffhanger too, which makes me want to see the sequel.
Yeah. So I watched it for the first time last year, and I really liked it. It was one of those, like, things where, like, afterwards I, like, wanted to research it and, like, research the sequels and stuff. Red Dragon, which is the sequel, is actually a prequel to it.
No,
It takes place beforehand.
There's another one called Hannibal, I think.
Right, yeah. I think there's 2 other ones, like Hannibal. I think there's another one called Hannibal Rising. I could be wrong. But I think the one that came out directly after was Red Dragon, which has what's his face? Ed Norton's in it, I think. But yeah, it's like it kept me on the edge of my seat the entire time. And maybe I just want more when I was done with it, especially with like the, like you said, the cliffhanger at the end, kind of.
I think what they do well is they have just the right amount of Hannibal in it. He's in it quite a bit, but he's definitely not the focus. And I guess that's why it's not called Hannibal like some of the other movies.
Right.
And to be honest, by the time we're like really deep into the third act, you kind of forget about Hannibal being there, which you might sound like a detriment, but it works well because he's kind of like a looming presence throughout the whole movie.
Yeah, he's not the main threat, and I think that really helps to not have him in the focus. Like, he does get a pretty decent amount of screen time, but if I were to say anything, I do think Buffalo Bill should have gotten a little bit more screen time. Like, out of like all the there's really like three main characters in this movie, like the detective,
Like Clarice.
Clarice, Buffalo Bill, and Hannibal Lecter, and I do think it was balanced well for the most part. Maybe just a little more on Buffalo Bill.
I think I'd agree with that. If it was like a mystery where we didn't know who it was, then yeah, keep it in the shadows, but they're never trying to hide it really.
Like hide it from the characters, but they're not really hiding it from us.
Yeah, there's like a twist where it's like, oh, this character is actually Buffalo Bill. We kind of,
right.
Not from the beginning, but it's basically as soon as we're introduced to him as a character, like in like the first act. It's either the first or like the beginning of the second, I'd say. But yeah, we're introduced to him as the character, and we know him. Although I really enjoy the mystery of the film, where like you kind of don't really know where it's going. It kind of keeps going back and forth between different options. And like when I was first watching, I had no idea what the killings were. Obviously, that's kind of part of it. Is the detectives don't really understand why he's like, because Buffalo Bill is known for skinning his victims like in certain areas, and they don't really know why he's doing it. They think it's like just for like a trophy or something like that. And then when it's revealed what he's actually doing with it, I was like, oh damn, that's crazy. It's also like that's like a really oddly like disturbing scene, but like I don't think he has the full suit on.
No.
Because I guess it's kind of a spoiler, but he doesn't have the full suit on in like one of the scenes, but he has like a bottom or something.
Wait, does he? Wait, is that when he's dancing?
That's when he's dancing. He
has. Oh, I didn't even notice the bottom.
He has, and it looks pretty flawless though. But yeah, he has some kind of bottom on where like he's got nothing down there. And I think I could be wrong.
I think he just tucked it in between his legs.
Really?
On that part, I think so.
It could be.
Like in Eric Andre's special. Have you seen that?
Yeah. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. But that's like an oddly like disturbing scene.
There was a Robot Chicken short, based on this movie, and the voice that they used sounded more like Nicolas Cage. So I thought that Buffalo Bill was gonna be Nicolas Cage.
That dude has a really deep voice, Buffalo Bill.
Yeah.
It sounds like a voice changer.
Yeah, it does. So that I was really disappointed to not see Nicolas Cage in this movie, but I'm kind of happy that it wasn't Nicolas Cage at the same time.
Fair, yeah, fair. I think it'd be interesting to see what it would be like with the Nicolas Cage Buffalo Bill. I think he'd probably play it up a whole lot more.
Yeah.
Like he'd the expressions and everything, he'd go kind of crazy with it.
Are we all in agreement that this was like an amazing movie?
Yeah, I think it's pretty amazing.
I feel like we can all say that this was a really, really good movie with not a lot of flaws.
Out of all the movies on this list, it's probably the most well put together. It's like cinema.
I'd agree with that.
And with that, Jason, you want to describe Children of the Corn?
Oh yeah.
Sure. There's like this kid named Isaac, who's kind of like a cult leader, like religious cult leader, but he's only like a teenager.
Oh, that's exactly what he is. Yeah.
Yeah. And he convinces all of the kids in the town of, what's the name of the town? Oh, I'm blanking, but it's in Nebraska. It's a corn town. He convinces all these kids that with this religion that like he's promoting, that they have to kill all of the adults in the town. And the movie starts out with the massacre of like all the adults. Like they get out of church and they go to eat or whatever at this diner, and then Isaac rolls up and he tells all the kids to kill the adults. So basically he becomes kind of like the leader of the town. Like they're all one big cult, and they kind of they keep away from outsiders, and they also don't let any of the kids leave. And as part of the cult, once you turn 19, you have to basically sacrifice yourself to what's it? The one beyond the field. What's the name of the god?
Yeah, it's like the one that sees behind the. I forget.
It's something like that.
It's a long title.
Yeah, but you sacrifice yourself to them, and so then we meet our two main characters, Sarah Connor and
Yes.
and I forget what the guy's name is. It's not actually Sarah Connor, but it's Sarah Connor's actor, Linda Hamilton, I think's her name.
Yep.
And they're driving somewhere. So they're driving through Nebraska, and simultaneously while they're driving through Nebraska, one of the kids tries to escape the town, and he runs to the cornfield, but he gets caught by one of the kids, and he runs out in front of their car, and they blast him. He goes far. So they get out, they inspect it, they see that he was killed, and they keep driving but they're very suspicious of what's going on. And they see all these signs for this town. They're in the middle of nowhere. They're just, all that's around them is corn. And so they keep seeing the sign for the town that they're in, that the kids are from. And so they're trying to reach different places. They're trying to just get where they're going, find contact with people. But I forget what her name is. But there's a little girl in the town who has this seeing power or something.
I think her name is Sarah.
Yeah, Sarah. Yeah. So Sarah, she's able to draw visions of the future and stuff.
Yeah.
And so she has the power of sight, and so she draws the two couple, the couple arriving at the town, and so Isaac, I guess, it's not necessarily meant told if he tells his disciples, I guess, to get them to go to the town, or if it just happens that they somehow get them to go to the town.
I think it was prophesied or something.
Yeah. So they arrive at the town. They notice that it's a ghost town. There's nobody there. Basically, they're looking for contact. All the phone lines are cut, and so the kids know they're there, and they go to attack them. And the middle of it is kind of a blur, but basically, they have to catch them and sacrifice them. The kids have to catch the two adults and sacrifice them, and the two adults are trying to not get sacrificed. And that's kind of the main plot of it. And then eventually they get most of the kids to snap out of it, and
It's not that they snapped out of it, it's that they all were kind of scared of their god.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure they were going to California, that's the place they were going to, but they were prophesizing also that the blue man was the one that could stop their god.
Yes,
so
the police officer, the blue man.
They need to kill the blue man.
Mm-hmm.
The ending of this movie was just really, really weird.
It's very Stephen King.
It's very Stephen King. It was. I'll just be flat out honest. This movie was terrible.
Really?
Yeah,
you guys both didn't like it.
This movie was
there's
god
a few
awful.
good qualities.
I think it's good. I don't think it's great, right? I think it's a good movie.
I think this movie is just absolutely horrible. I think that having mostly child actors really hurts this movie because how big was the budget for this movie? Because obviously they did not care who they got to act, especially this
800,000 it says.
Okay.
Isaac was the most annoying little shit in this movie.
I gotta give Isaac credit though. Him and Malachi were the only two characters I really cared about. And Isaac wasn't in the movie that much, I feel. And I looked it up before. Apparently the actor for Isaac is 25, or was 25 when he played it. So that's kind of why you can feel he's not as bad as an actor. At least that's how I felt.
He wasn't as bad as an actor, but his voice just was nails on a chalkboard for me.
But I think that adds to his character. I really like this snivy cult leader type thing. And then his right-hand man, that Malachi guy, the redhead, he was the exact opposite. He was so bad. Oh my god. But I kind of loved it.
You know what? I disagree. I disagree strongly. I think we have it completely reversed here because I think Malachi was the best part of this movie.
No, I say he's a bad actor, but he was a good part of the movie.
I don't even think he was a bad actor. I think he's just I think he was literally all about him was the best part of this movie. He seemed like he was the only one that like actually gave a care about literally anything.
I'll agree with that.
So I don't know. At least to me, I feel like the boy and girl that are hiding in the house. I feel like those were the two worst. Yeah, Joby and the girl. Those were like the two worst characters in the movie.
They're pretty bad, but they're really young too. You know.
Yeah.
You have to get
I think that's like the problem with this. I think the setting is probably the scariest part of this movie. I can imagine a really good movie being set in the middle of nowhere like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not scared of children. I don't care.
Yeah.
That's where it loses me.
My one big gripe with this movie is I wish there were more kids getting punched in the movie.
Yes,
Yeah.
dude.
Like,
oh my god.
Like Wicker Man style, like how Nick Cage just punches a woman in the Wicker Man. I wish that they would just punch kids in this movie. But it was. I think it's okay. There's lots of corn and lots of corn, lots of kids.
Yep.
Yeah.
So should we vote now? Because
did you guys? I actually have a question. So did you guys think that? It was just a corn demon, correct? That was what the god was, or do you think Isaac was actually right? And that he was actually because the thing is like technically he a lot of stuff he was right on. You know, she actually had like the power of sight. There was actually like a godlike figure. When I was watching it, I was like, maybe he is right, but then at the end, it's like, oh, maybe it's just a corn demon.
It definitely was just a corn demon. I mean, they fucking drew a pentagram on that kid they were gonna sacrifice chess.
That's the thing with Stephen King. He just kind of, I think he makes it seem like it's maybe not supernatural, but then at the end he just kind of throws the supernatural at you.
Yeah. Oh my god.
It's just weird.
The effects at the end though. The like
the drawn on.
Yeah.
The drawn on effects, and like they couldn't even when they were like sucking in Isaac with it, like they didn't even cover most of his body. It was
I guess there's sequels where like Isaac comes back, I'm pretty sure. I haven't seen any of them. I probably won't.
Well, he did come back for a little bit to get Malachi.
Yeah, he was a zombie dude, sorta.
Yeah, we can vote though. We'll start with Noah on this one though. What are you thinking?
It's got to be Silence of the Lambs. I mean, I looked it up. I got the page open like on IMDb right now. Children of the Corn is 90 minutes long. It's like a standard movie. Looking back at my experience, it felt like it was 3 hours long. I just thought it was boring.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we can basically say that Joke and your vote is also for Silence of the Lambs, correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, I don't think Children of the Corn is as bad. And I think it's much better on a second watch.
You won't be having a second from me.
Yeah, you'll have to tie me down and like glue my eyes open.
Yeah.
I genuinely think it's better on a second watch because you kind of know what's going on. When I first watched it, I was really confused as to what was going on. But when second watch, I was like, okay, I kind of get everything. But yeah, I will also go with Silence of the Lambs. But yeah, okay, so Silence of the Lambs goes through, gavel, sound effect, insert. Okay. We are now moving on to a battle of animation movies.
I feel like this is going to be a tighter contest here.
This is absolutely going to be a tighter contest. This might be the tightest one out of all of these.
For the first round, at least.
So, we have the matchup of The Corpse Bride versus Monster House. Jokin, you wanna kick us off with Corpse Bride?
Yeah, okay. So, there's an arranged marriage going on because the bride's family's poor and they need her to marry the husband because his family is still rich. But he can't like practice his vows and that causes a problem. So he goes into the woods to practice his vows and he ends up putting a ring onto a dead person's hand who was actually engaged. Like she was to be married to this person, which I won't say it right now. But she was to be engaged to this person, to be married to this person, but the guy put the ring on her finger. She ends up like getting revived, and then they're both taken to. I don't know if it's ever like stated what exactly it is, but
just the land of the dead.
Yeah, the world thing.
Yeah. So they both go to the underworld, and the guy keeps trying to get back home by like tricking her. But eventually he like realizes that he actually does kind of like this woman, but like they do get married. He has to die in order for their marriage to actually matter. But the corpse bride sees the woman, like the original wife, and it's like, no, I can't marry you. Your heart doesn't belong to me. I've already like had my chance at life, and I don't want to take yours. And after that, it gets like super spoilery, so I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
That's pretty much like it. Okay. There's this guy. I do remember his name. His name was Lord Barton, who just randomly comes to like the wedding rehearsal. He's just like, "Hey guys, I'm here."
Yeah, nobody bats an eye either.
Well, they explain it by saying, "Oh, he must be this part of the family."
Right.
Yeah, they're kind
Which
of.
I don't think is weird, but then he stays around the castle or something, or whatever.
Yeah.
That's the weird part.
Like, assuming like everything went well and like they actually did get to practice the vows and they did get married, what would his purpose be?
Whoops. Well, whatever.
Because the whole reason for him staying was so he can marry the bride, and then kill her and take all the money through the will. But when he realizes that she has no money, they're already married. He realizes that she has no money.
Right.
He tries to kill her, which is the corpse bride was actually killed by Lord Barton.
That's the twist.
Yeah.
I kind of saw it from the beginning, even though like I haven't seen the movie before. But you see the silhouette of him when they talk about the story. Like that chin is you can't
unparalleled.
Miss it. You can't miss the chin.
Yeah, it's kind of predictable in that regard.
Yeah, but I thought it was pretty good. Yeah, so basically like Victor, he gets dragged to the underworld and they don't know where he is, but the family still wants a wedding, and they think he's rich as well. It's kind of like a mismatch where he thinks they're rich and they think he's rich.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, yeah, you can marry my daughter. Remy just met you. And the thing with Victor is the reason why he ends up marrying the corpse bride. I mean, obviously they have chemistry, but also he thinks that Victoria's moved on.
Oh, that's right, because there's someone like in the underworld said that like she's arranged to be married. Yeah. Okay.
And then it's when eventually that kind of is called off or whatever. I have a question. I don't really have many notes on this. I watched this today actually. I mean, I've seen it before, but I rewatched it today. So obviously, when Twilight was out, one of the big crazes was: are you Team Edward? Or are you Team Jacob? So when you guys were watching this, were you Team Victoria or were you Team Emily?
So I feel like I'm not Team either, because
I know it's very different from Twilight, where like it's not an actual feud. But.
I know, but like Victor and Emily only knew each other for like 5 hours, and most of that was just practicing the vows. However, Victor and what was the quote?
Emily.
Victor and Emily, I guess they knew each other longer, not that much longer, but they actually had like a connection. They talked to each other, so I would go with Victor and Emily.
I don't know.
Oh.
I think Victoria and him did connect over like the piano at the beginning.
Yeah, for 5 minutes.
Yeah. But you're talking about like an abusive relationship here, where the corpse bride's trying to control this dude. To be honest though, this dude could have just said, "Yo, it was an accident from the beginning." Like he could have explained himself a bit better.
Yeah.
It's kind of on him.
Like, oops.
I did see myself like rooting for the corpse bride at the end though.
Yeah, I'd say I'm Team Victoria. I think they're both living. Victoria's
the way it should be.
Yeah, and the corpse bride she it was all a misunderstanding.
Hey, one question I have about the film, I guess it's kind of a nitpick, but you see in the underworld a bunch of different, I guess they're people, right? A bunch of different people in different states of decay. How do they keep decaying when they're there? Because like some of them are zombies, some of them are just skeletons. There's that one wise skeleton that's like almost dust.
Right.
Well, I imagine because like they showed the driver died of like cancer. I don't, because he just kept smoking. I mean,
he had a heart attack.
It showed. Yeah, I
Could
mean,
be
he
throat
just
cancer,
like
you
kept.
never know.
I think it was that. I think it was that because he kept smoking. But like his body was like perfect, just blue now.
Right.
And when Lord Barton died, like when he drank the poisoned wine,
yeah, he was
he was also like completely blue.
Right, and the
So
Victoria,
I do-
not Victoria. Emily must have died pretty recently because it was Barton
Yeah.
that killed her, and he's still
Yeah.
pretty somewhat young, I guess. I mean, he does have white hair, I think, but
She was a little bit decayed, but I guess
Yeah.
it's just like you will just you'll keep decaying, and then you can like choose when you want to go on, which is why I don't know if it's right to call it the underworld.
I kind of like that. That's kind of unique.
Yeah, Emily at the end, like she does move on.
That's
she turns into
true.
a bunch of butterflies and flies
Oh,
up.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
So I imagine that it's like a sort of purgatory more than anything.
I kind of like
about
that
that.
take of it then.
okay.
You can just choose when you get to move on.
Right.
Or maybe if like everything's closed, you can choose when you get to go on. Go on.
Okay.
Yeah, I
That's the
think
theme
that's
for
the-
a bunch of these movies, I think.
Yeah, isn't that the plot of another movie?
Yep. Basically.
It's kind of it's somewhat of a plot, not as direct, but it's
Oh,
somewhat
yeah,
of a
yeah,
plot
okay,
for
all right,
coming
yeah,
up
yeah,
with
yeah.
this as well.
Because it's not the movie. It's not something you would think about.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
for that movie, but okay.
So then it's going up against Monster House, and Monster House. Well, I'll go over the story. So basically, there's this old man. What's his name? Anybody know his name? off the top of your
Nicholson. Nicholson or Nickerson?
head? Knickerbocker.
Yeah.
Something
that
like
right?
that.
Yeah.
So he has his house. It's really old and decrepit, and he doesn't let anybody go on the lawn. If people's stuff rolls on the lawn, he confiscates it and takes it in, like kids' stuff.
Can I get a timeout?
Yes.
It's Nevercracker.
Nevercracker, not Knickerbocker. Yes. Mr. Nevercracker. So yeah, he confiscates all the kids' toys, and like it opens up with him stealing a little girl's bike that ends up on his lawn. And at first it just seems like he's a grumpy man, but as we find out, so basically the across the street neighbor. I have no idea what any of their names are. I know Chowder. Chowder's the only one I know.
Yeah.
DJ.
DJ. So across the street is a kid named DJ. He has his friend Chowder that comes over like a day before Halloween. But Chowder brings over his basketball, and the basketball lands in Nevercracker's lawn. So he wants DJ to go get it. It's brand new. And so DJ goes onto the lawn and grabs it. But Nevercracker wakes up, comes outside, and like kind of attacks DJ basically. Really it's revealed at the end that he's protecting these kids, but he kind of attacks DJ. And then he seems to croak in this moment. The ambulance comes, takes him away. Everybody thinks he's dead. They also think that DJ killed him. And so then all of a sudden DJ starts getting calls from the house. You can hear the phone when he calls it back ring from across the street. Mm-hmm. And they think that it's a ghost of Nevercracker haunting him. So they try to investigate him and Chowder. Turns out that the house itself is alive, and it's like preying on children. And so they I think basically the mission at that point is to like destroy the house because Halloween's coming up. So they go on a mission inside the house to kill it. They try to go to the furnace, which is the heart, and toke the flame. Or does toke mean to make it higher or to?
I think it makes it bigger.
Makes it bigger. Okay, they do not want to toke the flame. They want to do the
Yeah,
opposite.
quell
of
the
toking
flame.
Yeah, sure. They have squirt guns and stuff. And yeah, so they eventually find Nevercracker's wife, which it's like rumor around town that he killed her and ate her, I think. Maybe just kill her, but I'm pretty sure it was kill and ate her.
It was kill her and eat her.
They find her buried underneath in the basement in cement. And so they run out of the house, or they get thrown up by the house. And then eventually Nevercracker comes back. He's alive. And it's revealed that the house itself is possessed by his late wife when she died during the construction. And she doesn't like kids going on the lawn and stuff. And she has a hot temper. She used to be like a carnival act. Like a fat lady carnival act. And so really what he does is he protects all the kids from going on the lawn from his wife. But really he realizes that, she's out of control. She's super angry. And they have to destroy the house. And so they end up, destroying the house. The spirit of her moves on to the next phase of whatever. And they return all the toys to the kids on Halloween. Was that a good synopsis of it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say
Perfect.
Okay.
so. I love how
beautiful.
you didn't mention the girl whatsoever, though.
That's true. Yeah, I forget what her name is, but there's like the prep school girl.
Mm-hmm. because she just could have just not been in this movie whatsoever.
That's
and
true,
it
but
would have been the same.
she's gives a little bit of brains, I guess, kind of to them.
I
And they have
guess.
some jokes too with her.
Diversity, yeah, jokes. I really like the uvula joke. where
Yes,
she's like,
that's the one that stands out to me.
You
too.
have to
that's
hit the uvula. Oh, so it's a girl.
That's a very
Well, he was
like, weird.
he was right. He was right. It's a girl.
He had a 50-50 shot.
There's a lot of like adult jokes in this movie that I really liked.
I think that's actually to its detriment. The humor of this movie doesn't. It's very of the time. I'll say. I think. The worst part of this movie was having Napoleon Dynamite in the arcade.
Yeah, that's funny.
That was
I
the.
thought that was just weird.
That was just like. That just shows how dated this movie is. I think like visually it holds up. It's a very weird, creepy style. It's still when Robert Zemeckis was having his motion cap fever dream.
Yeah, I
So-
was gonna bring up the fact that there was mocap suit. Like done, they were acted out with mocap suits, and then
Do you think the house is mocap?
yeah, definitely
They got a real house.
mocap the house. Yeah, I think it's super interesting, like the shots and like animation style. Like it just
It's not things. It's things you can't do with live action. And it's also things you kind of can't do with animation, which does make it interesting. But like visually, it's still like I said, it does hold up, but it does also show its age in a couple of places. This isn't like a Pixar movie when it comes to the visuals.
right.
This is definitely like a one-off kind of like you'll see a one-off CG movie in theaters that'll like bomb, but
right.
because this movie has such like a cult status, it didn't bomb.
Yeah, I'm curious. Did the versions that you guys watched, was it full screen?
Yeah,
Because the DVD that I have of it, it was in like a
4:3.
4:3 aspect ratio.
Really?
Yeah, it was in a 4:3 aspect ratio,
weird.
and it also like I don't know. I'm sure this was consistent with yours, even though it was full screen. But it had, I don't know if you guys noticed, but it had added film grain to it, so it looked like it was like on film.
I
So-
don't remember.
I didn't end up finding the DVD version. It was on demand for me. Like
I've had the DVD.
I have the DVD somewhere. I don't know where it is.
It kind of caught me off guard. I never noticed it before. But the 4:3 aspect ratio mixed with the film grain, it just felt like an old. I gave it like a vintage film, like a vintage feel to it. And,
Do you think that added to it?
I thought it added to it with my experience watching it. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was
Okay.
cool. I mean, when I say vintage, I don't mean like super old like vintage. I
No,
just mean
I-
it gave it like a bit of like an older vibe.
Right, you wouldn't have film grain in a CG.
Like it made it feel
Movie.
more
Yeah, it
like
doesn't
a,
make sense.
It started to kind of like blend like the between like animation and like
Yeah, I can
live
see it.
action, you know, and like some of the shot styles too felt like straight out of like a live action movie, like the shots that they did with it.
You're right.
In terms of the plot, I really like that. Like when I think of this movie, it's kind of nostalgic for me, I guess. It's not like a movie I loved as a kid, but I enjoyed it and I watched it multiple times. I don't really
Right.
think of the Napoleon Dynamite and like the things that keep it in its time.
Right.
I think of the like overall plot of like the man loving his wife and stuff. That kind of reveal
Yeah.
the sort of, I guess, horror movie trope where you think it's over, but then the house comes back bigger and stronger. I really like the ending too. It's really a bombastic ending, I guess, and it gives the movie a lot of impact, I think.
Yeah.
I agree. I was really surprised at what they were able to get away with in this movie in terms of like it being like a kids animation movie. I have listed down stuff that they got
What's the
away
rating?
with. They got away with like alcohol being in it, stealing
Yeah.
drugs, and dynamite. And like the
Who-
mix of those three was like, okay.
Who like produced this movie? Because if it was Nickelodeon, I don't think they'd do that.
No. It was it was Robert Zemeckis, Columbia Pictures, so Sony.
Oh, okay.
Sony and Amblin Entertainment. So isn't that Steven Spielberg?
I
I think so.
know.
Amblin.
I'm pretty
Oh,
sure.
I think it is, because doesn't it start with like the
The
ET
ET logo. Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, this movie was like written by Dan Harmon, and I do think
Really?
it kind of shows. The screenplay was written by Dan Harmon,
I didn't know that.
and I think that it really shows because it kind of has that same kind of humor as like Community and Rick
Yeah,
and Morty.
I didn't know that either. That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You can definitely feel that.
Well, I think we can go to a vote now. If I have to choose between these two, like, it's come next Halloween, which one am I watching, if I have to choose one? I think I choose Monster House. I think I had more fun with Monster House than I had with A Corpse Bride.
Yeah, I agree. Like I said, I do think this is probably like the closest there is, like, out of all these movies between like in the bracket. I do think this is definitely the closest. Not that Corpse Bride is a bad movie. If we're going strictly based on like a movie to watch around Halloween, I think Monster House would just, win every single time. But I don't really think Halloween whatsoever with Corpse Bride. I'll say. But I do think it might be like the better formed movie. If things were just fleshed out more with it, I do think it would just be like 100% better. But
okay,
we forgot to mention that it's sort of a musical in Corpse Bride. It's like a
True.
3 songs, I think. Which, I don't know. I think it kind of pulls it out. Either go full musical or don't.
I'll also say that I don't think... I kind of touched this with you, Julian. Not Julian, sorry. Oops. I kind of touched this with you, Jason, but I don't really care for Tim Burton. I don't really care for his style of movies. So when you do have like a genuinely good Tim Burton movie like Corpse Bride, I do like I appreciate it.
That's interesting, considering there's 2 other Tim Burton movies on the bracket. So I'm curious how those are gonna play out. Noah, I know Monster House has gone through, but if you had to choose between the 2, which one would you pick?
Yeah, kind of going off what Joklin was saying, I'm choosing Monster House because if Corpse Bride didn't exist, there'd be other Tim Burton movies. If Monster House didn't exist, it kind of fills a hole, There's nothing else really like it. It's pretty unique.
All right, now moving on to round 4, we have
Disney
the battle.
movies.
Yeah, the battle of the Disney classics. Up first, we have Halloweentown, which I think it is the quintessential Disney original Halloween movie. Basically,
Disney Channel original?
Disney
or?
Channel original, not Disney.
Okay,
Yeah,
all right.
Sorry.
Don't.
Excuse me. I misspoke. The Disney Channel original Halloween movie. Basically, Halloweentown follows Marnie Cromwell and her family. Her mother and grandmother are both witches from this fictional world of it's like another dimension called Halloweentown. But the mom moved to the mortal realm when she met like a dude at a Halloween party one year. And they had kids. The dad eventually died, but they had 3 kids. They had Marnie, her brother, and her sister. Can't remember either of those names. And she doesn't want her kids to grow up and be in that magical world. They're in the mortal realm. She wants them to have a normal, like, human life. But the grandmother really wants the kids to pursue their magical backgrounds. And I guess also, how old is Marnie? She's 16, I think. No, is 13. It 13 or 13? Okay, so on your 13th Halloween in this universe, if you don't like begin your witch training, then you lose your powers forever. So it's a very important milestone in Marnie's life. So the grandmother comes and visits. You can, for some reason, you can only visit on Halloween.
The bus stop is only there on Halloween.
The bus stop's only available on Halloween between the 2 universes.
And time works differently between the 2 universes too.
Yes, that as well.
Confusing.
But yeah, so she wants to convince the mom to let Marnie do her training, but she still says no. And so the grandmother is gonna give up and go home. But the kids sneak onto the bus and follow the because they overheard the grandmother talking, or Marnie did, and she learns that she's actually a witch. So she follows her grandmother. She sneaks on the bus, and they go to Halloweentown. Because there's also like an evil force that the grandmother said she wanted her daughter's help as well. So they go back to Halloweentown. They reveal to the grandmother that they're actually, they're there, and they want to begin she wants to begin their training. Really, she's the only one that they know, or they say that she has powers, but really it's revealed that all 3 of the kids have powers. And so yeah, so she begins her training kind of, but they explore Halloweentown, and there's like this kid. What's the kid's name? There's a kid who's like a troll, but he's like a henchman for this evil force.
He got a nose job.
Yeah, the evil force gave him a new like handsome face in return for him being his henchman.
Handsome, quote unquote handsome. He's just a regular dude.
It's better.
It is better.
Yeah.
And so they eventually they convince the grandmother to go to this abandoned theater to meet the evil force, because they're like, if you think you're so powerful, Granny, come and meet this guy. He'll show you up.
Mm-hmm.
And so she goes to the theater, and like he freezes her along with like her daughter in time, kinda. Basically, they're frozen, and he's planning on taking over Halloweentown. But Marnie and the kids get away, and they gotta build this like brew that they put inside this. I think it's called is it a talisman? Is that the name of it?
I think so.
It's like a scepter. It's like a scepter.
I think they call it a talisman in the movie though.
So they fill it up. They have to fill it up. They have to make a potion to fill this thing up, and this thing will supposedly get rid of the dark spirit. So they go on like a scavenger hunt for the different ingredients, like werewolf's hair, vampire's fang.
I really liked that part of the movie. That little.
Yeah, it was fun.
It was more fleshed out than a montage, but it's like just trying to figure out how to get ghost sweat.
Yeah,
it's
ghost
just
sweat.
Weird stuff you never think of when they get into pretty creative situations.
Yeah.
So they get all this stuff and they put together the brew, and it's revealed that the dark spirit is actually the mayor of Halloweentown, who used to also be the boyfriend of their mom. Ooh, spicy. So they don't really realize how to use it until they realize that in the center square of Halloweentown, there's a big jack-o'-lantern that's unlit, and the talisman is actually supposed to go in the jack-o'-lantern to light it up, and the light will defeat this evil spirit. I think it's
Malakarn or something like that.
Something like that.
It's like Calicarn or like Kern or Burn.
Oh, it's a Caliban. I don't know.
Yeah, that's it. I think that's it.
Yeah, because I know the second one is Halloweentown 2: The Return of Caliban, or whatever the guy's name is. And so basically, they put the thing in the pumpkin, and then they join hands and put a spell on this dude, like the family, like they get unfrozen. And they all five of the family members join hands, and they say like a spell, and they cast them away, and Halloweentown is back to normal. And the grandmother goes to live with them in the human world to train Marnie and the kids. And there's sequels, but we're only basing our judgment on this first one, though.
Yeah.
So what was everybody's thoughts on Halloweentown?
I was scared I wasn't going to like this movie again, because I liked it as a kid. I thought it was great. It was a lot of fun. But it really, the first act I think is the strongest. Just building up to Halloweentown, I really like that they take their time to hype it up.
Yeah.
It's really, really good in that respect. And what impressed me, looking back, is that this was made before the Harry Potter movies. Like, I think the first couple books were out or something.
Uh-huh.
But it really, I thought they were ripping off Harry Potter, just with the whole aesthetic and obviously the magic stuff.
Right.
But like maybe those first Harry Potter movies took some inspiration from this.
Halloweentown.
Maybe, because the grandmother really feels like the mother Weasley. She's got the same sort of bubbly personality, the nice witch sort of thing going on.
I agree where, look, upon rewatching this movie, I think it's safe to say that it's a bad movie, but it's a fun movie. And I think like the atmosphere they create is probably the best part about it. You know, the world building and the atmosphere of it is great. I also I think I wrote down that it has good kid actors. I feel like the kid acting.
Oh, that boy is annoying though.
For kid acting, I think it's pretty good.
I think he's supposed to be annoying, which is
he's written to be annoying.
It's not a good thing. You don't want to write someone to be annoying. I don't know, but I kind of disagree with you, Jason. I think this is a fine movie, especially for what it is. I also think that the world building is probably the worst part, because it just looks like a regular city with a pumpkin in the middle of it.
True.
And maybe
I suppose that's right.
A little bit of weird people, but other than that, it's not like you hear something called Halloweentown, and you would probably think more of like I don't know, I don't like Tim Burton, but you probably think of more of like a Tim Burton world than just a pumpkin in the middle of the town, and maybe they don't have as much grass as they should.
Well, they have like different stores and stuff. Like
they do, but they're just regular stores with monsters in them. And
right. And again, we're only basing it on the first one, but I do feel like the sequels.
The sequels definitely improve on that.
Well. Yes.
The sequels definitely improve on the world, but I think it's a fine movie. I do think like the romance at the end with the bad boy and
Marty.
Marty. That was
really
just
rushed.
that was the
Forced.
most thrown in thing ever.
Yeah.
Like you got like that whole like nose job thing before you met her. So how are you gonna say like I did this for you and I just wanted to be liked and I kind of like you. I wish we could have gone on a date, and then have her say, the funny thing is, if you had just asked me, I probably would have said yes. You don't know this
It makes
kid.
no sense.
You
Especially
you
since he was trying to do her dirty before.
right. You don't know this kid whatsoever. And
Yeah.
don't tell me you would have said yes after seeing that nose. Come on. Don't lie to yourself. Don't
it's
lie to
definitely
him. Don't
forced.
try to make him feel better just because he got stabbed. All right. It's just those are like the two main problems I have with this movie though. Is like that romance at the end was just super shoehorned, and the world like I feel like could have had it could have had a lot more like better set design rather than just being a little bit spookier than the real world. Off topic, but kind of on topic. I didn't know that Debbie Reynolds is Carrie Fisher's mom, and I
Yeah.
also didn't know that they died one day apart.
Really?
That's crazy.
That's weird.
That when I found that out, I was like, what?
Yeah.
Because I found that out because I just watched the movie and I like was doing like research on like actors and stuff. It's like, oh, she looks familiar. Oh, okay. What?
I think. Oh, my voice cracked. But I really appreciate it looked like this movie had a lot of effort put into it. A lot of the practical effects look kind of crappy, but that's because it's a 90s TV movie. Some of it does really stand out as good, though. I think like the skeleton cab driver.
Yeah.
That's something that stuck with me. I remember that before even watching this again. I remembered that cab driver, and I think that's kind of a quintessential part of the horror genre. Is just kind of making the best with what you have. Usually low budget, maybe low experience, but people who want to put in the effort. I think that's what makes this have its charm.
So was the cab driver always evil? Because at first he like did
a
drive
good
them to the
question.
parents' house, but then he was like trying to give them to Caliber or what? I forgot what his name is again. Calibarn.
Calabar, I
We're,
think. Yeah, that's not Callaghan. Calabar, I think. Is the
we're
name.
not going
Or
through this again. But like
calamari.
it's just kind of weird, you know, like.
I
But
think
then
he
at
was
the end of
turned
the end
evil.
of the movie, he was like, "Hey, well, you're welcome to come back anytime, kids."
No, I think he was turned evil. Like you know how like they said that before, like the people were like
He got
not
under the
missing.
spell.
They were.
Well, they weren't turned evil. They were just turned to like husks of their former selves,
True,
and they had
that's
like
true.
Well-
grimy faces.
I think that's a bit of a plot hole because the grandmother was saying that people acted mean in that
Yeah,
first
but they
act.
weren't acted mean. They were just like,
I know
listen.
they didn't show it, but she said it. It's kind
Yeah.
of like something they should have shown more.
yeah.
So it is going up against another Disney movie, but I don't think it was a Disney Channel. It was just a Disney movie.
It was a Disney movie that bombed, but they put
Really?
it on
Really?
Disney Channel. Yep, Hocus Pocus
That's
was like
crazy.
a huge Disney bomb, but they put it on Disney Channel, and like that caused like it to get a cult following, and that's also the reason why Disney made so many Halloween movies.
Oh, okay, good to know.
Really? Did you want to go over the story of Hocus Pocus, Joaquin?
Sure. A guy from California moves to Boston. He moves to not to Boston. He moves to Salem, and hears about like the Salem witch trials in class, and he's like, that's just a bunch of baloney. And he meets this hot girl, and the girl's like, it's not fake. And then he's like, why don't you show it to me? So yeah, they like talk to each other for like 5 minutes,
Right.
and then they go home. He has to take his little sister trick-or-treating, but he ends up going to that girl's house that he met. Like at the house, they like talk more about the witches because they like had just figured the sister had also just learned about them. So they're like, we should go to the house, you know, just see it, check it out. Because I think they turned it into a museum.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it was almost like the Fearing Tavern in Wareham.
Yeah. So they go there. They find out about like the candle that must be lit by a virgin in order to like bring the witches back. And he's like, "Oh, dare me to do it?" Like there's this black cat. Oh, I completely skipped over the beginning where it's like a flashback sequence. Not a flashback, but like a
It
they're back.
starts in the
Prequel,
in
sort
back.
of.
Yeah.
It starts in time. starts back where like the witches were lived
trials and
before they were hung. The witch's goal is to suck up like the souls or like the youth of children to give to themselves to make themselves more youthful. They steal a little girl, and her brother is like there to save her, but tries to prevent them from doing it again. They turn the witches turn the kid into a black cat, an immortal black cat, so it'll live forever. And then like it goes back to like our time after they were hung. The brother lights the candle, which brings the witches back because he's a virgin. So they're just trying to like prevent the witches from like doing their thing, like killing all the kids. And it's just like witches trying to understand modern things, especially on Halloween where everybody's dressed up in costumes and they're like scared of those things that they're dressed up as. Right. So that's interesting to see. At the end though, this movie has like 4 different endings. Can I just say that?
Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. This movie has like 4 different endings where it could have just like gone through the credits and been fine. They like the first time they stopped the witches by like getting their book. And I'm not doing a really good job of explaining. I'm not
okay.
good
So
at
the witches have
movies.
until midnight to
yeah. Is it midnight? No, it's not. It's not midnight because like.
Oh, it's sunrise. Excuse me.
Yeah, sunrise.
It's sunrise.
They have until sunrise in order to like make a potion so they can stay in the current world.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
if not, they die.
Yeah.
And so it's a race to get the book that they have a magical book that has the recipe to the potion. They can't remember what the recipe was.
Mm-hmm.
So the kids have the book and they're chasing after the kids for the book, so they can get the book, get the recipe, get the kids, suck the kids' life out, live forever, and wreak havoc. And yeah, there's a lot of different endings. Like they think that they kill the witches by putting them like in like a kiln in a high school.
Yeah. That was the first one, but the witches lived because they turned themselves into smoke or something. The second ending, the second place it could have ended at is like they grabbed the book. So like the witches just don't know how to make the recipe. So they were eventually going to die. The third ending was they like grabbed the sister and they were running away. Mm-hmm. And then the fourth ending was the actual ending. So
this is one of the movies or not one of the movies, but this was the movie I was talking about earlier when we were talking about movies that used to scare us as like a kid. I used to have nightmares about getting abducted by the witches as a little kid. And I used to be terrified of the movie, and I used to never watch it. Mm-hmm. This time around watching it, I had a great time with this movie. I thought that the comedy in this movie, it hit hard. And like I think the use of juxtaposition was perfect. I loved like the horny bus driver. That's just like there were just a bunch of like horny old men in this movie. There was a horny bus driver. There was the old guy dressed as the devil that they thought was the actual devil. Mm-hmm. It was just the chill old guy. All the virgin jokes, and they constantly just keep calling him a virgin in the movie.
Which you wouldn't think you wouldn't think they would do that in a Disney movie. Yeah. This movie kind of doesn't feel like a Disney movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which is why I think it's so well regarded, but
yeah, and like one of the sisters is like a nymphomaniac.
Yeah. There are a couple of problems with it though. Like the romance wasn't as shoehorned as Halloweentown. Definitely was not as shoehorned as Halloweentown or Corpse Bride for that matter, but it still was like kind of just there. And at a point in the movie, they thought that like they beat the witches. They are all like asleep. The brother and the girlfriend wake up at like 5 a.m. But this girl had just met this kid today and is already sleeping with him in his house. The parents were like possessed, but they didn't know the parents were possessed. Like they thought the parents would go home eventually. The parents are like at a party and the witches put a spell on them. They sing like this whole musical number. It's just kind of weird to me. Like, why are you sleeping at this kid's house? Other than that, again, there are a couple of other problems, but they're kind of just really nitpicky. Mm-hmm. This one's kind of just me. I don't like seeing the run over cat because at a point the immortal cat does gets run over by the bus, and you just see like a cat,
a squished cat,
a squished cat with like a wheel mark.
Yeah, he does come back to life, but still, it was
very uncomfortable.
Yeah, I see that as well. Did you guys notice that the flyover at the beginning of the movie was Plymouth Plantation?
Oh, really?
No, I didn't.
Yeah,
I
when
guess
they
I
did a
didn't notice
flyover
that.
at the beginning of the
I
movie.
remember what you're talking about.
The
yeah.
beginning credits when they're flying over the town. The town they used during like the actual scenes with like the people and they're back in like the 1600s. That wasn't Plymouth Plantation, but when they do a flyover, they use.
That makes sense.
I watched it this time around. I was like, oh, wait a second, and I googled it. It was Plymouth Plantation. One thing I think this movie does really good is it felt like Massachusetts, like authentic Massachusetts. I felt like there was parts of it where like he was running downtown, and it like looked like kind of like downtown Brockton. Like,
Do we know where it was filmed?
no, I have no
think,
idea.
I think it was filmed in Canada because Canada was like location was like Canada because they were in the credits
Yeah, it could be.
for it. So,
But like it felt like authentic Massachusetts, like colonial Massachusetts. And I don't know. I thought that was pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the witches were like the chemistry they had off of each other was definitely the best part.
Oh yeah.
They're just so much fun. I really enjoyed the beginning scene when they were back in the 17th century. I thought like they could have made a whole movie out of that. And it could have been good.
So now time for the vote. We have the two, and I honestly before watching these movies, I thought it was gonna be really tight. I don't know how tight it's gonna be with these two, but we have the battle of the two Disney classics. Noah, what are you going for?
So Hocus Pocus obviously has the advantage because it's a theatrical release, right? It has that production value, and you can really feel it. But I have to go with Halloweentown because of how much I just like could feel the passion coming from the movie. That's something I really enjoy. I think I definitely have more nostalgia for the movie too. Yeah, that's why. It's
Okay.
it's like a classic I can think of.
All right, Joe Quinn, are we gonna have our first split, or is it gonna be unanimous? Again?
why don't you go first, Jason? Why don't you go first?
Okay, I'll go first. I'm gonna introduce our first split. I'm going with Hocus Pocus. I just had and again, I have very fond memories of Halloweentown as a kid. I probably have more nostalgia for Halloweentown than I do for Hocus Pocus. But this time around watching them, I just had so much fun with Hocus, more fun than I was expecting with Hocus Pocus. And Halloweentown, well, it was still fun. Like I said, in my notes, I have not a great movie, but a really fun movie. But Hocus Pocus, I just think it was both a really fun movie and a really good movie. And so I'm going with Hocus Pocus for my pick.
So the reason why I made you go first is so we could get that split because I do think I do prefer Halloweentown.
Wow.
I think nostalgia plays like a big part in it though, because Hocus Pocus is definitely not as bad as I thought it was going to be. I do think that Halloweentown is just like a far more charming movie, especially for what it had, like the Disney Channel original movie budget. I do think it's like a far more charming movie and more interesting than Hocus Pocus, because I think the setup for Halloweentown is just like a lot better. In my
first
opinion.
act, man.
It's pretty good. Not that Hocus Pocus is bad. I would watch both of them again. I think I would just watch Halloweentown before I'd watch Hocus Pocus.
Okay, that's fair. That is very fair. This is the first one that I'm honestly kind of surprised at which way it went. The other ones I was kind of like, all right, I know this is gonna probably win this one. This will probably win this one. This one I was almost certain that after rewatching both of them it was gonna be Hocus Pocus. But I'm cool with it.
Oh, that certainly was a great episode, wasn't it, Jason?
I really had a great time.
Me too. If you want to know how this Halloween saga ends, though, you're going to have to join us for part 2 in the next couple of days. That is, if it's not already out by the time you watch this. Stay tuned.
Bye-bye.